A very good morning to everyone. Thank you very much, Rishi, for inviting me, and I'm delighted to be part of this course. But I'm the opposite of delighted to be talking to you about this organism. I think that it's very important for all of us to listen about it, to learn about it, and if you're like me, to hate it as much as I hate it, till we get an answer on how to get rid of this infection. So I just wanted a quick poll about how many of us in the audience here see a lot of fungal keratitis? Or let me put it another way, is there anyone who doesn't see fungal keratitis? So everybody does. So next time when you see some of these cases, and I'm going to describe to you exactly what you need to look for, then you know what is this organism I'm talking about. Some of you may be aware of it, for some of you may be new information. The information is new, but this organism was there all the time. So I'll just start off with a case of a 22-year-old lady, and her baby's fingernail injured her right cornea 15 days ago. Her left eye 15 days ago, and she was using treatment which included antibiotics as well as antifungal, but then there was no improvement. So when the patient came to us, you can see that she had sort of this peripheral fungal keratitis, not really an annular fungal keratitis, but some signs were there. So it started off in the periphery and going on in this sort of spreading fashion circumferentially. When you just look at the higher magnification, you can see that the edges look very active, the whole lesion looks active, especially the inferior part here, and there are areas of thinning as well. So I think most of us would very easily sort of identify this as fungal keratitis. We would be correct in our diagnosis here. We took corneal scrapings from this lesion. Of course, the microbiologist identified fungal filaments for us, but based on these cases and other information that we had, they now have added to the description something called, it's sparsely septate. That means it doesn't branch a whole lot, it's not clear, it's not hyaline, and it's ribbon-like folded fungal filament. So they've added this to the description. Whenever they say ribbon-like, we know that we are in trouble. So this is the gram stain. Well, it's very pretty. It shows a very ugly organism which is stained so well in gram staining. So as the conventional treatment that we have available, we hospitalized the patient. We started her on half hourly natamycin because she hadn't improved with 3 hourly natamycin. So we thought maybe it's an adequate treatment, as well as immediately started on oral antifungal because of the extent. This was the very next day. There's not much improvement at all. You can see the drug deposits. And in 24 hours, the fungus actually grew in the lab. You know that fungus notoriously takes a long time to grow. Sometimes it doesn't grow. And this grew in 24 hours. And what the microbiologist describes, again, now we know what we're supposed to look for. They say that they're spreading gray, flat colonies with hypate edges. So they have a term called oppressed. So the colonies, usually fungal colonies are like a mold, they're elevated, but here they're quite flat. So eventually, and this grew on blood and chocolate agar. So they didn't have, and in fact, SDA and that's Sabrod's dextrose and potato dextrose agar didn't grow anything even after 14 days. So it's just the ordinary media that grow this fungus. So by day 12, the microbiology lab were ready for us. They already told us what it would be, but the way to identify this is by the sporulation and based on the zoospores, which to them it makes a lot of sense. To me, it doesn't, I wouldn't know what this is, but it's a zoospore. Based on the zoospore, they identified this as they told us. It's called Pythium insidiosum keratitis. So Pythium insidiosum is one of the fungus which is freely available, as in especially the name comes from rice grains on the paddy fields. So farmers are at a predilection for getting this kind of infection, those who work in paddy fields. And we've learned the bitter way that it's a very bad fungal infection to have. And some of you may have heard about multiple reports and case series of this particular organism causing very severe fungal keratitis from Thailand, where there's a lot of rice cultivation. And this is similar to us, and especially in South India, we have a lot of rice cultivation. What happened to the patient? The patient continued to worsen. There were active edges. And we were a little reluctant to straight away go ahead with the therapeutic keratoplasty because of the area of limbus involved. And in those days, we still kept thinking that a medical therapy would work. We switched, we added voriconazole, we switched to amphotericin B. We tried everything out, but then the patient went home, came back again with almost the entire cornea involved. And at this stage, we knew that actually we were pretty late, but we went ahead and did a keratoplasty for this patient. The corneal button also showed these multiple filaments which are located very deep in the corneal layers, all the way up to the Descemet's membrane. And you can see them very well highlighted in PAS as bright staining, as well as in grams as the darkly staining fungal filaments. What about the patient? This is a sad story of the very large graft. Luckily, at 6 months follow-up, the patient continued to maintain the graft. It was, of course, a failed graft. And since that, the patient has also undergone a DSEC and is reasonably doing well. But we know it's a very high-risk graft, and any time it can just reject. So that's the story for the patient. Coming back to the organism, Pythium is an aquatic fungal-like mycete. It's freely available in soil and water, and especially in tropical, subtropical countries, and it was endemic in Thailand. Now we are recognizing it more and more in other countries as well. The only species that affects the humans is Pythium insidiosum. So we are an end infection in the sense that from us it doesn't spread to anybody else. And in the eye, the ocular form, it causes microbial keratitis. It's also known to cause skin disease in humans. And it's it's been reported since more than a century now to cause skin disease. The early presentations itself can be very severe. It rapidly spreads, so the doubling time is very fast for the infiltrate. And if you wait too long, you just lose the eye. There's endophthalmitis and you have to resort to evisceration. Are there any typical slit lamp features that you can recognize? It looks very much like a typical fungal ulcer. You have a stromal infiltrate with feathery margins, but there are a slight variation on that. You have a slight reticular pattern. In fact, some of them look a little bit like a very bad case of acanthamoeba with the grayish kind of infiltrate. And in advanced cases, you just don't know what it is because the entire cornea is involved in the stromal infiltration. And it's very rapid, so you can in fact think it's bacterial because in just 2 to 3 days history, you have a patient with a large, extensive corneal involvement, which you don't normally attribute to fungal keratitis. So these are some of the cases. This is the previous patient with feathery edges, and was initially we thought it was acanthamoeba keratitis, but the scraping right away revealed fungal keratitis. This is another patient showing, it looks pretty much like fungus, except that what I mentioned was the reticular border, and you can see this reticular, what I've labeled as reticular pattern, especially seen on the edges of the spreading edges of this infection. This is yet another case of Pythium, and yet another case which you would not mistake for anything else but fungus, but when you see this slightly whitish infiltrate very rapidly spreading and severe infection in the patient, you can suspect fungal Pythium keratitis. They don't seem to be too many predisposing factors, but then yes, patients in farms or in agriculture with direct eye trauma can be exposed to it. We had one patient using a contact lens. It has been reported earlier. Microbiology is pretty much revealing, but the microbiologist has to know about it. So when they see these ribbon-like sparsely septate hyphae with a particular size, then they have to think in terms of Pythium. It may not be important to them, but it's very important to us. And it cultures very well on all media, and it shows characteristic qualities, but they can only identify the species and tell you it's Pythium once they get zoospore induction, which they have techniques to do. So a lab can be trained to do it for us if we so require. Histopathology would not help us in identifying the actual fungus, but will at least tell us it's fungus. And certain other tests which if you really want, you can do DNA, PCR to look for exactly what kind of organism you have. Again, confocal in vivo will not help us much except to tell us that it's fungal keratitis. So what is the bad news? The bad news is that it doesn't respond to any antifungal. So we've had lab data showing that the in-lab data sensitivity is that it's resistant to everything that we have on the table. So that's because it lacks the target of most of the antifungal agents, which is ergosterol in the membrane. We had some good news that it seemed to be sensitive to caspofungin, but pretty much later on in repeated sensitivity testing, we saw that it's resistant to that as well. So basically, nothing that we have on the table for fungal keratitis at this point in time will work for Pythium. So the minute you see it, it's the same if you're putting a lubricant for the eye or if you're putting antifungal medication for the eye. In my view, they just rapidly worsen, and then you just have to resort to therapeutic pentratic keroplasty. Of course, if it's very small, because we put in antifungals so intensively, so in the lab antifungal sensitivity may not be true in the clinical scenario. So you can give a therapeutic try. You have a small infection, you can give a therapeutic try of intensive antifungals, it may work. But most of the cases we've seen that it doesn't work. And in fact, the other bad news is we do a keroplasty and we have patients coming back with recurrence of the same infection. This is because in some of the patients it looked very good and we started topical steroids for them. Now we learned that if you're going to do large grafts, then don't add steroids 2 or 3 weeks later, which we would normally do. And this is one of the patients where without adding topical steroids also, and it's a pretty large graft, we thought we'd got rid of the infection, there was a recurrence. So another such case. A couple of take-home messages would be that I just wanted to make you aware that we probably are seeing these cases, and now you can correlate. Those rapidly growing, in a week the entire cornea is involved, patient is not responding to therapy, probably those are the cases of Pythium keratitis. And it's not rare, it's just that we have not been looking for it, we were not aware of it. And you need to consider it in the differential diagnosis of severe fungal keratitis. So I would like to acknowledge the effort of my fellow, Dr. Rashi Mittal. She's working on this project of Pythium keratitis, identifying it and studying all the cases. And with our microbiologist, Dr. Savitri Sharma, who's providing all the lab data and is doing her lab is doing a lot of work on this. Pretty soon we'll have a lot of concrete information, but not very good news because right now we don't have an agent working against it. Thank you very much.